and welcome to the Boating Hour with Captain Rick. The Boating Hour brings you the latest and greatest essential information about everything that sails, floats, or motors upon the high seas of Southern California. From landlubbers to old salts, there'll be something for everyone. So climb aboard and get ready to sail with Captain Rick.
Ahoy out there, and welcome to the Boating Hour. I'm Captain Rick, and I want to thank you for joining us here on AM 870. We're here every Saturday at 4 p.m., and please be sure to visit us on the web at theboatinghour.com. And, of course, our email, captainrick@theboatinghour.com. And now on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble, The Boating Hour with Captain Rick. Thanks to our sponsors for our show today. For a healthy gut, the best probiotic on the market, Livia One Probiotics, natural, organic, and allergen-free. And Raycom Radios, reliable two-way radio communications with no drop or dead zones. Get a hold of me, Captain Rick. I'll set up an appointment. If you need commercial radio, this is the way to go. Our sponsors. And we are preparing. I've got some emails, so I'm going to talk about it. We are preparing to do a little circuit. We're going to get some of our in-demand book authors. We've had some great guests. Among them have been some people that have written script. We've had a couple of guests that have taken their scripts and actually produced movies. We've got quite a few book authors that have been on the show. Of course, the Holy Grail was John Jourdain, 500,000 miles at sea. He autographed books at functions. So we're going to go on a book tour at various yacht clubs and community centers. We're going to talk about and feature the book authors. I'm coming out with my own book, an introduction to sailing and boating and what's going on in the marinas up and down Southern California. And we're going to get our radio guys to come out and give you an introduction and talk about all kinds of radios, all the way up to what commercial radios are. And we'll give you a little introduction. So great for scouts and people just getting into sailing. So we'll talk about that coming up in the very near future. We got a great email. I wanted to share some emails with you. We had some great guests. Of course, last week we had a phenomenal guest, built a boat. Derek Wade is a sailor and author, and he had a book, and he's going to be actually our very first. We'll talk about that in the weeks to come. So I got a couple emails about what does it take to go around the world. Well, I got news for everybody. That's a big chore. He talked about winging it, but he was surrounded by some tremendous people. It's all in his book. And that book will be available on the Captain Rick website, but on Amazon, Murder on Marin County. And his book that he's working right now on, he's going to feature that and give us the skinny as soon as he goes to print on his second book. So we had a couple great emails about Faye Johnson. I stay out of politics, but you know, Faye Johnson is an amazing grandma and mother. She was the commissioner of the vets, the Hawthorne Veterans Commission. So they help their local vets. It's kind of the prototype, which I'm trying to promote this because I think every city should have a vets association and help their residents, their local vets. So if you go to Hawthorne, you see some of the banners. So that's why I was so excited to feature this Air Force vet running for city council in Hawthorne. If you're listening, look up our website. Tremendous group of people out there. Hawthorne, I call that marina adjacent. Of course, SpaceX is there, and we all hope that SpaceX, they've moved their corporate office, but they're keeping all their production. And I don't know what they employ, but it's about 100,000 plus people. So, one of these days, maybe we can get Elon Musk on the show. I wonder if he's a sailor. Josh, you have any idea? Elon Musk a sailor?
You never know. I mean, he could invent an electric boat.
I'm not sure that would go over an electric boat, but it's we've got some.
Maybe the water can conduct the electricity. A new technology. Hey, there's an idea right there.
That's a fantastic idea. We actually have had a couple of companies. Battery companies, lithium technology is taking off. Some of the new technology in batteries, so that's hitting the marine industry. So just like you have your iPhones, they have like a magnet where you don't plug it in. When you plug in, the connections erode, creates potentially a fire hazard. So they've created that technology where if your boat, if your connections fall off your boat, you have no electricity to start fires. So that's a new technology coming. We had someone talk about that in the earlier shows. I had a great email that said, I'm back in Los Angeles. I'm listening to your shows. I know you go up and down California, but I didn't listen to you on iHeart, so I'm glad your show is still going strong. And I just listened again. I really enjoyed all your early shows when you first started. I want to know the email goes on and compliments me a lot and asks me what was the inspiration behind the show, and then ends with, you had some famous shipwrecks. You talked about some Coast Guard rescues. So I did that in the early days, and I've had a few people ask me to do that again. Of course, the most famous shipwreck of all. You know what it is, Josh? The most famous shipwreck of all.
Titanic?
No, the most famous shipwreck of all. The most interesting one was the shipwreck of the SS Minnow. So I talked about Gilligan's Island was fantastic. Right out of Long Beach is really where they filmed that intro. It wasn't Marina Del Rey. But Alan Hale was a skipper, and Alan Hale was kind of a famous guy. He did a couple hundred movies. I'm not even sure. I'd have to look that up. But he owned a restaurant in Los Angeles. He comes from a famous family. His father was a famous crooner. He was trained as an opera singer, and he was a silent movie star next to like Errol Flynn. So he came from a very famous family, and he owned an L.A. restaurant that my parents would take me to right on La Cienega. So in the 70s and 80s, it was called the Lobster Barrel. And the Lobster Barrel was fantastic. And I even once, I can't find it, of course, he had these postcards, and he was there a lot. So the Lobster Barrel was kind of on La Cienega, and it was around the corner of Sonny Bono's Melrose restaurant, and that lasted until 90s. And then Sonny Bono, I think we lost him in Lake Tahoe at a ski accident in the mid to late 90s, I think. Mm-hmm. But his restaurant, until he moved permanently to Palm Springs, he had a restaurant, Sonny Bono's Melrose restaurant. I forgot what it was called. So we're going to talk a lot more about shipwrecks, some famous people, and some of the shows, some of the ships and that were used, and how they filmed some of these great movies. So I love the emails. We've got a great guest coming on in a little bit. So from the Water District, Scott's going to come on the show and talk about what he does, because there's a festival I want to promote next week. August 5th is a festival, and we're going to talk all about that. I will be at the Port Royal Yacht Club in Redondo Beach for a dedication, a memorial for Sheila Anderson. Sheila was on my show. She was on my show in 2021, so it was in June. And she was a Commodore, Port Royal Yacht Club, and part of IOBG, the International Order of the Blue Gavel. And she went very far in sailing and boating and being in helping other people and working in the clubs and the organizations that help the clubs. So we're going to talk about the memorial in a couple of weeks. I promised you last week and the week before that I was going to do a show with Gil from another radio show on Salem radio on either Saturday or Sundays, and he talks about Los Angeles real estate. So it's a real estate show about real estate in Los Angeles. But the topic of the show, it's still going to happen, but in a couple of weeks, we're going to talk about the best waterfront deal in California is Oxnard Ventura. Now, Oxnard Ventura is a little sleepy town that people forget. It's absolutely beautiful, and it is affordable. It's a great community. They have some fantastic marinas there. Of course, Port Hueneme is up there. It's that's where we have a lot of the Navy people, but they have some great marinas. They have great bays, a lot of sailing and fishing and recreational activity. So that is one of the great places to be. So we're going to do a whole show on that. So I've got some absolutely fantastic emails. So one of them is America's Cup is going on. Where's the update and the guests? Well, the America's Cup is going on. It's not finished yet. America's Cup is a fantastic, it's the oldest activity. It's the oldest event, started in the mid-1800s. So it is actually considered the oldest, longest running sporting event in the history of the world. So the America's Cup has been going on since the mid to late 1800s. So we're going to talk all about that. America's Cup is kind of the holy grail, but they do their tournaments just a little bit different because there's a challenger that challenges, and there's a tournament to pick who the challenger is. And of course, whoever wins the America's Cup gets to pick the venue. Usually it's their hometown. We're going to talk a lot. We have a guest coming on about the explosive blaze. I got a handful of emails asking about the Marina del Rey. The Admiral was a fantastic commercial boat, and it sank after a fire. It was a terrible disaster right in Marina del Rey and engulfed in flames. And we don't know yet the details, possibly an electrical fire, or maybe they went out and didn't clean up properly. Who knows? But, fires are terrible when they're at the slip because you got boats right next to you. You damage the slips, but it's potentially, if there's people aboard, very dangerous. So we're going to talk about rescues. There's been a couple of rescues that have gone on. And I was at the Coast Guard. Now, Coast Guard, we end our show with America's Lifesavers and Guardians of the Sea. And the Coast Guard and the Coast Guard Auxiliary, the civilian volunteers, are a regular topic on the show. I try to encourage people to be part of the Sea Scouts if you're a youngster, or the Coast Guard Auxiliary if you're working and living in the community and you've got an inkling to work with people, with boaters, and talk about boater safety and go on patrols. And there's all kinds of things that the auxiliary does to assist the active duty and reserve in the Coast Guard. So we've talked a lot about the Coast Guard. Last week, and I'll put some photos up on the website, was memorial marker at the base in L.A. Long Beach, where we honor those that have passed the bar that were in the Coast Guard Auxiliary. So I'll have some great photos, and it was fantastic. We had trumpet player and bagpipes, and a lot of people came and talked about serving with these people that had passed. So some great stories, and I really love to see the family. And the families, of course, are so honored to see people that really appreciated their relatives that have passed. So we've got a lot of stuff coming on, of course. I like shipwrecks. I like talking about ships, buried treasure all over. There's been quite a few great treasures that have buried. So all this coming up and more. And if you're just joining us, you're listening to The Boating Hour. I'm Captain Rick, and I'm here every Saturday at 4 p.m. Please be sure to visit us on the web at theboatinghour.com, where you can listen to our podcasts and link to our many guests. And, of course, now on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble, The Boating Hour with Captain Rick. And, of course, our email, captainrick@theboatinghour.com. And for a healthy gut, Livia One. Livia One Probiotics, natural, organic, and allergen-free. And thanks to our sponsor, Raycom Radios, reliable two-way radios throughout Southern California without dead zones and drop zones. And we're going to talk all about radios in some upcoming segments. Today, I have a wonderful guest, Scott, joining me. So Scott is a director and board member of the West Basin Municipal Water District. Scott, welcome to the show, and tell me what it is that you do and explain to me what's going on with water in Los Angeles.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me. Again, I'm Scott Houston, one of the board members at the West Basin Municipal Water District. We are the regional water district throughout the South Bay cities of Los Angeles County and some of the West Side cities. We're a member of the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, so our job in part is importing water from the Colorado River and from the Delta, and we also have a water recycling facility located in El Segundo. And actually, this Saturday, October the 5th, is our annual Water Harvest Festival at our plant in El Segundo. And I can give you a few details about that if you'd like.
Absolutely. I want to promote that. That's coming up next week. So it's open to the public. Is it a festival? Is it for family and kids? What's going on? Tell us all about it and when it starts and how to get there.
Wonderful. It's all the above. So it's Saturday, October 5th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's at our Edward C. Little Water Recycling Facility located in El Segundo. And the address is 1935 South Hughes Way in El Segundo. It's right next to Top Golf, the golf course. So most people know that. Yes, right next door. And that is our recycled water plant, where we produce about 35 million gallons a day of recycled water. That is taking wastewater that's from the Hyperion treatment plant. It would have otherwise gone out to the Santa Monica Bay, but instead we're recycling, again, 35 million gallons of water a day for various purposes. So that's outdoor irrigation, that's for different industrial purposes, and for groundwater replenishment. And so this is our annual open house. We have all kinds of family activities. We've got a costume contest. We've got booths about water education. We'll have a stage show and games. There'll be drawings. And the best part is we'll have plant tours. So whether you live in our service area or around the region, you're welcome to come. It is free. There'll be food. And I think, again, one of the best parts is you can come and tour our facility and see what exactly recycled water is and why it's so important to our local water supply.
My goodness, that sounds so exciting. I didn't know it existed. I mean, I use tap water. I'm very happy with the Los Angeles water, and although I do get Perrier. So, when I go to restaurants, and I do have a little bit of bottled water, but I had no idea it existed. How many people work at in the water district? Is that a big employment base?
Well, it's a great question. You know, there's large water districts and smaller ones. So like Los Angeles Department of Water Power is very large, of course. West Basin, we serve 17 cities, almost 1 million residents, but we have a small but mighty staff. So our staff is around 50 staff people, as well as a contract operator that runs the facility. I think they have about 50. So, you know, about 100 people are making a lot of things happen. Part of the water supply, of course, we are just importing, and that's passed through to our retailers. But the recycled water operations, we do own and operate that. And so, you know, I would say it's a small but mighty team. These are essential workers, from running the operations in the plant, the engineers, but even our communications professionals and our financial people. Water, I think, is one of the most exciting industries in the region, and we are a public agency. So we are at the behest of the residents and constituents we serve, and I'm honored to be a part of that.
That's fascinating. Where does our water come from?
Sure. So our potable water supplies, and that means our drinking water supplies, yes, a lot of that is imported water. So that's the water coming through the aqueduct systems, whether it's coming from Northern California, the Sierras. So when you're driving along the 5 freeway and you see that aqueduct flowing, we're bringing water into the Los Angeles and Southern California region, as well as the Colorado River aqueduct. So we're bringing that water in from Lake Mead. So a lot of our water is coming from far away, and it comes into the area, it gets treated and distributed. We do have pockets of groundwater in this region, and then, of course, recycled water. So that's taking the wastewater, and we recycle it, and we use it in different ways. Right now, some of that is put into the ground for storage, as well as that outdoor irrigation most people are familiar with the purple signs and the purple pipes.
Oh, sure. Wow. Every so often we hear about, our governor that's giving away our water or diverting or selling. What's the relationship between the state, our governor and other states as well? No one, we take it for granted. We turn on our sprinklers or a faucet where we live. I take nice clean showers. But I tell you, we never think about where it comes from. So what's the relationship that goes on with the state of California?
That's such a great question, and it's complicated, but I'll try and make it simple as I can in some ways. So, for example, the Colorado River, there's 7 states, 30 tribes, and Mexico. We are all looking to get water from the Colorado River. About 40 million residents of the West are dependent in some way, shape, or form on the Colorado. So that's one system coming in. Then you have the Sierras and the snowpack, and that's just here in California. And, some years we got a great snowpack. The last 2 winters were unexpectedly wonderful. But we're looking at a potential La Nina season where things might dry out again. So that's why sometimes we're pulling more water from the Sierras, sometimes we're pulling more from the Colorado, but it's real important locally what we do. So whether we're recycling water, we're better using that groundwater. Yes, we're taking out some of the grass and replacing it with drought-tolerant landscapes. I'll give you a great fact. About half the water used in our region is for outdoor irrigation, about 50%. So when we can, use less water on our lawns and those green spaces, it does help the water community tremendously to conserve and save water for, our neighboring states, for other industry, as well as our local water districts, because some water districts have more resources than others.
God, this is fascinating. I got to invite you back and do a full show with you. And could you send me stuff so I could put up on the website, especially, let's plug again and the website to find out about the October event next week.
Sure, by all means. So our website is westbasin.org, westbasin.org. And if you go on the homepage, there is a link right on the homepage for the water harvest. The water harvest is Saturday, October 5th from 10 until 2. It's free. It's a lot of fun. I invite everyone to be there, and I am happy to send you some more information, Captain Rick.
Absolutely. It's Captain Rick at theboatinghour.com. So I'd love to have you send me some stuff. I'll put it up on the site. You're definitely going to see me. You'll recognize me. I'll wear my captain's hat. So I love wearing my cap. I've gotten emails. People have asked me that I should sell captain's hat. I should make a captain's hat that says the boating. I might do that. Captain's hat is fun. It's fun being. Are you a sailor, a boater, a fisherman?
I will occasionally fish. I'm not an expert. I do love going out on the water. I'm not a boater per se, but I love when I get to go on the water. Of course, I live near the beach. We've got the Port of Los Angeles just to our south, and I love going down to San Pedro. So I definitely love it. I'd love to learn more as well. So looking forward to seeing you and meeting you.
That's exciting. It's so much fun. It's great living here. We forget, those of us that live and work here, sometimes we forget about our water facilities, our beaches, our marinas, and we forget that a lot of people, the tourist industry is huge. People from all over the world come to L.A. and Orange County to enjoy our beaches and to go out on the water, and fishing and sailing and scuba diving and kayaking are big activities here. We take it for granted a little bit. But, Scott, I want to thank you again for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. It was a last-minute call, filling in for a guest that had planned today. We're going to be talking about Ventura Oxnard in an upcoming show, and it's a guy that's on the show, Real Estate Radio. So Gil is going to come on the show, and I promised my guest today, but that's coming up in a couple of weeks from now. But Scott, thanks again for coming on. October 5th next week, free to everybody. It'll be up on the site, and thanks again for coming on the show last minute.
It's my pleasure, and I look forward to coming on again.
That's exciting. Well, that's all the time that we have for you today. I hope you enjoyed our show. As always, we're so very fortunate to have such wonderful and exciting guests. I want to thank our guests today. And let's not forget the Coasties protecting our waters, America's lifesavers and guardians of the sea. A lot of stuff coming up about the Coast Guard and the Coast Guard Auxiliary. And remember, if you do it right and follow the guidelines and safety precautions, there's no place like being out on the water in the fresh air and sunshine in beautiful, sunny Southern California. Here at the Boating Hour with Captain Rick, we cover everything that sails, motors, and floats from San Diego to Santa Barbara. Thanks for being with us today, and please be sure to join us next week and every Saturday at 4 p.m. on AM 870. And thanks to our sponsors for this show today, for a healthy gut, Livia One Probiotics and Raycom Radios, reliable two-way radios throughout Southern California without drop zones, dead batteries, and all the inherent limitations of all other communication systems. So Raycom Radios, reliable commercial two-way radios throughout Southern California. We're going to be doing some events. We're going to talk about some of our book authors that have been on the show and some of the books that have turned into scripts and movies coming up on the show. So thanks again for being with us. Don't forget to visit us on the web at theboatinghour.com, and now on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. And, of course, our email, Captain Rick at theboatinghour.com. Captain Rick at theboatinghour.com. This is Captain Rick saying ahoy and fair winds to all.